My parents took a luxe trip using my uncle's money, then kicked me out and said I'm not family, until what he exposed made them regret everything. I'm Lisa, a 34-year-old female living in Seattle, Washington, and working as a project manager at a tech company. I make a pretty comfortable $135,000 a year, and I'm proud to say I've built a good life for myself. It wasn't handed to me, though. It's the result of a lot of hard work, budgeting, and long hours. Growing up, I didn't have a silver spoon in my mouth, but my sister Amanda, a 36-year-old female, sure did. She's what you'd call the golden girl of the family, literally. She's blonde, bubbly, and has always been the center of attention. My parents, Ann and Mike, treated her like she was the second coming, and honestly, I think her being blonde had a lot to do with it. I know it sounds ridiculous, but they've always had this weird idea that being blonde made her special. Amanda had the picture-perfect life growing up. She never had to work for anything. My parents paid for her college tuition, bought her a car, and even helped her with the down payment for her first house. Meanwhile, I chose a different path. I was working part-time jobs through college, living off scholarships and scraping by to pay my rent and bills. When I graduated, I had zero debt but a whole lot of exhaustion. Uncle Robert, my mom's brother, was one of the only people who noticed how hard I worked. He's a self-made millionaire who built his real estate empire from nothing. He never had kids of his own, so he's always been super generous with our family. He's the kind of guy who believes in working for what you have, though, so while he supported Amanda and my parents financially, he respected that I was making my own way. Amanda and her husband, Brian, live this glamorous-looking life, but it's all smoke and mirrors. The funny thing is, Amanda's Instagram is full of curated photos of their vacations. Noah, my nephews, private school events, and expensive dinners out. But if you peel back the curtain, it's all Uncle Robert's money. She and Brian don't have real jobs. Brian's technically in sales, but he's mediocre at best, and Amanda's never worked a day in her life. She calls herself a full-time mom, but let's be real, she has a nanny. My parents, too, are fully funded by Uncle Robert. They live in a nice retirement community in Arizona, and their medical bills and monthly expenses are covered by him. My dad spent most of his life as a factory worker, and my mom was a teacher, so they never really saved much for retirement. They don't seem to feel any guilt about leaning on Uncle Robert, though. They act like it's their birthright. Uncle Robert once told me, "Lisa, you're the only one in this family who knows what it means to stand on your own 2 feet." Hearing that meant the world to me because it felt like someone finally saw my struggle. I know Amanda resents me for having that kind of relationship with him, but the truth is, she wouldn't survive without him. I don't expect anything from my parents, and honestly, I'm okay with that. It's just hard to watch them constantly cater to Amanda while acting like she's some kind of saint for spending money that isn't even hers. The most infuriating part is how Amanda acts like she's better than me. She's constantly flaunting her lifestyle, making snide comments about how I work too much or don't know how to enjoy life. But the truth is, I'm happy. My life might not be as flashy as hers, but it's real, and it's mine. Sometimes I wonder if Amanda even realizes how lucky she is. I don't think she's ever truly had to struggle, and it shows in the way she looks down on me for being self-sufficient. She thinks she's winning at life, but all I see is someone who's completely dependent on others. Anyway, I love Uncle Robert to pieces, but being part of this family can feel like a constant uphill battle. And this Christmas, let's just say things reached a breaking point. So, every Christmas, Uncle Robert treats the family to this big, fancy trip. It's something we've done for years, and I'm not going to lie, it's nice. For a few days, we stay in luxury hotels, eat amazing food, and sometimes get along. Uncle Robert likes to go all out, and honestly, I think it's his way of keeping the family together since we all live in different states now. This year, he decided on a ski resort in Aspen. I'm not much of a skier, but I was still excited because, come on, Aspen in December is stunning. Plus, it's not like I go on fancy vacations every day. Uncle Robert put Amanda in charge of booking everything, which, in hindsight, was mistake number 1. But he's always trusted her to handle these things, probably because she has nothing else going on and plenty of free time. I thought about offering to help, but I didn't want to step on any toes. Amanda loves being the planner because it gives her an excuse to take credit for everything, even though she's just booking stuff with Uncle Robert's money. I figured, what's the worst that could happen? Anyway, I booked my flight and got to Aspen a little later than everyone else because of work. My company had a big project deadline, so I had to wrap things up before I could leave. I arrived at the resort around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, dragging my suitcase through the snow. The place was gorgeous. Picture snow-covered mountains, cozy little cabins, and twinkling lights strung up everywhere. It looked like something out of a Christmas movie. The main lodge was even more incredible. A huge stone fireplace, vaulted ceilings, and floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of the mountains. Families were lounging by the fire with hot chocolate, couples were coming in from the slopes, and everyone looked like they were having the best time. I walked up to the front desk to check in, expecting this smooth welcome experience. But instead, the clerk gave me this confused look. "I'm sorry, ma'am," she said, typing furiously on her computer. "We don't have a reservation under your name." At first I thought, okay, maybe Amanda just forgot to add me. Mistakes happen. But nope, Amanda didn't forget. She did it on purpose. The moment she walked into the lobby, I knew I was about to get some kind of smug, passive-aggressive comment. Amanda's always had this way of turning any situation into a chance to feel superior, and this was no different. She showed up looking like she was about to film a commercial for winter coats. Designer everything, perfect blonde hair, a big smile that could cut glass. "Oh, Lisa," she said, acting like she was surprised to see me. "Didn't I tell you? I only booked rooms for the real family. Me, Brian, Noah, and, of course, Mom and Dad." I don't think I've ever been so stunned into silence. Like, how do you even respond to something like that? The way she said real family made it pretty clear she didn't consider me part of the group, and the fact that she was completely unapologetic, that was the cherry on top. I glanced over at my parents, hoping they'd step in and say something, but they just avoided eye contact. Like they were embarrassed but not enough to actually do anything about it. Amanda kept going. "Of course, she never knows when to stop. But you're so independent, right?" she said in that fake sweet voice she uses when she's pretending to be nice but is really just mocking you. "I'm sure you can find something nearby." Then she laughed, like this whole situation was some kind of joke. I could feel my face getting hot, but I wasn't about to let her see me upset. I've learned over the years that Amanda thrives on making people feel small, and the best way to deal with her is to act like she doesn't bother you. So I took a deep breath, forced myself to smile, and said, "All right, enjoy your holiday." Then I grabbed my suitcase and walked out. As I left the lobby, I could feel Amanda's smug gaze on my back. She probably thought she'd won, that she'd managed to humiliate me, and maybe she had, a little bit. But I wasn't about to let her ruin my trip. The truth is, this wasn't the first time Amanda had pulled something like this. She's always been the queen of exclusion, whether it's accidentally forgetting to invite me to family dinners or conveniently not mentioning plans until it's too late for me to join. It's like she gets some kind of sick satisfaction from reminding me that, in her eyes, I don't belong. And my parents? They've always let her get away with it. They treated her like she could do no wrong, and that hasn't changed. If anything, they've become more enabling as we've gotten older. They'll say things like, "Oh, that's just Amanda," or "She didn't mean it like that," as if her actions don't have real consequences. But this felt different. This wasn't just a dinner or a casual get-together. This was Christmas, a family tradition, and she deliberately left me out, knowing full well how much it would hurt. By the time I made it outside, I was fuming. The cold air hit my face, but it did nothing to cool me down. I pulled out my phone and started looking up nearby hotels, determined to find somewhere else to stay. I wasn't about to go crawling back to Amanda or my parents, begging for a place to sleep. After a few minutes of searching, I found another luxury hotel about 10 minutes away. They had a suite available. It was ridiculously expensive, but I didn't care. I wasn't going to let Amanda and her petty nonsense ruin my Christmas. I called for a taxi and waited outside, dragging my suitcase through the snow. While I stood there, I started replaying the whole scene in my head. I couldn't believe the audacity of Amanda to actually say those words out loud. Real family. Who even says that? The worst part was knowing that my parents had probably gone along with it. They might not have planned it, but they didn't stop it either. And that hurt more than anything Amanda could have said or done. When the taxi pulled up, I tossed my suitcase in the back and climbed in, giving the driver the address of the new hotel. As we drove through the snowy streets of Aspen, I started to feel a little better. The new hotel was stunning. Honestly, it might have even been nicer than the original one. It had a sleek, modern vibe with floor-to-ceiling windows, a giant lobby Christmas tree, and a heated pool that looked like something out of a travel magazine. My suite was insane. Huge windows overlooking the mountains, a fireplace, and a soaking tub that I was already planning to spend half the night in. Once I settled in, I started thinking about how I didn't really want to spend Christmas alone. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love my own company, but it was Christmas, and I wanted to be around people I actually liked. That's when I remembered my two best friends, Sarah and Rachel. Sarah and Rachel are the kind of friends everyone needs, the type who will drop everything for you when you're in a bind, and who always know how to cheer you up. Neither of them had big plans for Christmas this year. Sarah's family was out of town, and Rachel had just gone through a breakup and wasn't in the mood to celebrate. I called Sarah first. "Hey, so how do you feel about spending Christmas in Aspen?" She laughed. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious," I said. "I've got a suite at this amazing hotel, and I don't want to spend the holiday by myself. Come hang out." Sarah didn't even hesitate. "I'm in. I'll grab Rachel, and we'll be there as soon as we can." Later that day, they showed up, and it was like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. We hugged, caught up on everything, and then got to work turning the suite into our personal Christmas retreat. The first thing we did was order room service. I'm talking everything. Burgers, fries, desserts, you name it. Then we decided to check out the hot tub, which turned out to be the most relaxing experience of my life. The hotel had this massive outdoor pool area with a hot tub that overlooked the mountains. The steam rose up into the cold night air, and for the first time that day, I actually felt like I was on vacation. While we were sitting in the hot tub, we started talking about the whole situation with Amanda. Sarah couldn't believe it. She actually said you weren't part of the real family? Rachel shook her head. She's always been a piece of work, but this is a new low. Honestly, you're better off not spending Christmas with her. They weren't wrong. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that being excluded was actually a blessing in disguise. Instead of dealing with Amanda's attitude and my parents' favoritism, I got to spend the holiday with people who actually cared about me. Later that night, we went back to the suite and cranked up some Christmas music. We danced around in our pajamas, ate way too much chocolate, and laughed until our sides hurt. It felt like we were kids again, having a sleepover and not worrying about anything else in the world. At one point, I decided to post a few Instagram stories. I wasn't trying to be petty. Okay, maybe I was a little petty, but I wanted Amanda to see that her little stunt hadn't ruined my holiday. I posted a video of us in the hot tub with the mountains in the background, another of us dancing in the suite, and a photo of our ridiculous room service spread. Sure enough, Amanda was the first person to view them. I could practically feel her fuming through the screen. Knowing her, she probably couldn't stand the idea that I was having a better time than she was. Amanda's the kind of person who thrives on being the center of attention, so seeing me happy and unbothered must have driven her nuts. The next morning, we woke up late and ordered breakfast in bed. The hotel delivered these giant trays of waffles, eggs, bacon, and fresh squeezed orange juice, and we ate while watching cheesy Christmas movies. It was the most relaxing Christmas morning I'd had in years. At one point, Sarah turned to me and said, "You know, this might be the best Christmas I've ever had." Same, Rachel agreed. No drama, no stress, just good friends and good food. We should make this a tradition. And honestly, I was starting to feel the same way. The funny thing is, the more fun we had, the less I thought about Amanda and my family. They were probably back at the original resort, doing their usual thing, pretending everything was perfect while ignoring all the cracks underneath. For once, I didn't feel like I was missing out. That night, we decided to dress up and go out to one of the hotel's fancy restaurants. The food was amazing, and the atmosphere was cozy and festive. We talked about everything, from work to relationships to our plans for the new year. And by the end of the night, I felt like a whole new person. As we walked back to the suite, I realized that Amanda's exclusion had actually given me the best gift of all, a chance to spend Christmas with people who truly mattered. The morning after our mini Christmas retreat kicked off, I woke up to a text from Uncle Robert. He said he wanted to meet up for breakfast at my hotel. I figured he must have heard something about what went down at the other lodge, and I was equal parts relieved and nervous. Uncle Robert doesn't mess around when it comes to family, but I wasn't sure how he'd react to the situation with Amanda. When I met him in the hotel restaurant, he was already sitting at a corner table, sipping coffee and looking as calm and collected as ever. Uncle Robert is one of those people who commands attention without even trying. He's sharp, no nonsense, and always seems like he's 10 steps ahead of everyone else. We exchanged the usual pleasantries, but he cut to the chase pretty quickly. "So, Lisa," he said, setting his coffee cup down, "what happened at the lodge?" I took a deep breath and told him everything, from the moment I arrived and found out I didn't have a reservation to Amanda's smug little speech about booking rooms for the real family. I didn't sugarcoat anything, but I also tried not to sound too whiny. I just laid out the facts. As I spoke, I could see Uncle Robert's expression shift. At first, he just looked thoughtful, but as I kept talking, his face darkened. By the time I finished, he was shaking his head in disbelief. "I trusted Amanda to handle the booking for everyone," he said, his voice low and firm. "I can't believe she excluded you like that. And your parents just stood there and let it happen." I nodded. "Pretty much." Uncle Robert sighed and leaned back in his chair. "Unbelievable," he muttered. The waiter came by with our food, pancakes for me, eggs and toast for Uncle Robert, and we sat in silence for a minute while he processed everything. I wasn't sure what he was going to do, but I could tell he was angry. Finally, he set his fork down and looked at me. "Don't worry, Lisa, I'll take care of this." I didn't know exactly what he meant by take care of this, but I wasn't about to argue. If there's one thing I've learned about Uncle Robert, it's that when he says he's going to do something, he means it. After breakfast, he said he had some calls to make and left for his room. I went back to my suite, where Sarah and Rachel were already up and planning our day. I didn't tell them much about my conversation with Uncle Robert, mostly because I didn't know what was going to happen yet, but I had a feeling things were about to get interesting. A couple of hours later, I got my answer. Uncle Robert called to let me know what he'd done, and let me tell you, he didn't hold back. He started by canceling Amanda's and my parents' reservations at the lodge, effective immediately. "They'll be packing up today," he said with a smirk I could hear through the phone. But he didn't stop there. He also decided it was time to cut them off financially, completely. He was done funding their lifestyles. "I've been more than generous," he said, "but this is the last straw. They need to learn some accountability." I was stunned. I knew Uncle Robert didn't tolerate nonsense, but I didn't expect him to go nuclear like this. At the same time, I couldn't help but feel a little vindicated. Amanda had been getting away with her entitled behavior for years, and now it was finally catching up to her. That afternoon, my phone started blowing up. First, it was Amanda. "Lisa, are you serious?" she yelled as soon as I picked up. "Uncle Robert canceled everything. Noah is crying and we don't know where to go." I could hear the panic in her voice, but honestly, I didn't feel bad for her. She'd brought this on herself. "Why don't you try being independent for once?" I said calmly before hanging up. She called back immediately, but I didn't answer. Neither did Sarah or Rachel, who were cracking up at Amanda's audacity. "Can you believe her?" Rachel said, scrolling through her phone. "She's probably losing her mind right now." "She deserves it," Sarah added. "Maybe this will finally knock her down a peg." Next, it was my mom. Her tone was a mix of anger and desperation. "Lisa, you need to talk to Uncle Robert," she said. "You know how important his support is for us. We're too old to start over." I wanted to laugh. My parents had spent years enabling Amanda's behavior and ignoring mine, and now they wanted me to fix everything? No thanks. "I think you need to talk to Amanda," I said. "She's the one who caused all this." My mom huffed and said something about how I was being selfish, but I didn't stick around to hear the rest. I hung up and turned my phone on silent. That evening, Uncle Robert stopped by my suite to check in. He looked calm, almost amused, like he was enjoying watching Amanda and my parents scramble. "I don't think they've ever faced real consequences before," he said. "This will be good for them." We spent about an hour talking and laughing, and for the first time in years I felt like someone in my family actually had my back. Uncle Robert didn't just see through Amanda's games. He was willing to do something about it. By the time he left, I felt lighter. The whole situation wasn't resolved, but at least for once, Amanda wasn't getting away with her usual antics. That night, my friends Sarah, Rachel, and I were still hanging out in the suite. We were lounging around, eating snacks, watching Christmas movies, and scrolling through our phones. Honestly, it was probably the most relaxed I'd been all year. I'd posted a few more Instagram stories earlier in the day, pictures of the fireplace in the suite, our room service spread, and a clip of us playing charades and cracking up. Nothing too crazy, just us having a good time. And of course, Amanda was the first person to view every single one. Now I thought she'd just stew silently or send me another passive-aggressive text, but no. Amanda decided she needed to take things to a whole new level of desperation. At around 8 o'clock in the evening, there was a knock at the door. I wasn't expecting anyone else, so I figured it was room service or something. Sarah got up to answer it, and when she opened the door, there was Amanda. "Hey girls," Amanda said, waltzing in like she was the guest of honor. She was dressed to the nines as usual, perfect makeup, some kind of sparkly holiday outfit, and that fake, cheery smile plastered across her face. The three of us just stared at her, like, what the hell is she doing here? Amanda didn't seem to notice the awkward silence. She plopped herself down on one of the chairs and started making herself comfortable, like we'd invited her to the party. "Wow, Lisa, this suite is amazing. You guys look like you're having so much fun. Mind if I join?" I could feel my blood boiling. She had the nerve to act like nothing had happened, as if she hadn't purposely excluded me from the family trip and left me to fend for myself. And now, after Uncle Robert canceled her little holiday fantasy, she thought she could just show up and crash my night. I stood up and walked over to where she was sitting. "Amanda," I said, keeping my voice calm but firm, "you weren't invited. Leave." She looked up at me, completely unfazed. "Oh, come on, Lisa," she said with a laugh. "Don't be so uptight. It's Christmas." I crossed my arms and stared her down. "It is Christmas," I said, "and you tried to ruin mine. Get out." For a second, I thought she might argue, but then she realized I wasn't messing around. Her face turned bright red, and she stood up, grabbing her purse. "Fine," she snapped. "But you don't have to be so rude about it." She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. As soon as she was gone, the three of us just burst out laughing. It was so ridiculous that it didn't even feel real. "Did that seriously just happen?" Rachel said, shaking her head. "What is wrong with her?" "She's delusional," Sarah said. "She thinks the whole world revolves around her, and now that it doesn't, she doesn't know what to do." I couldn't argue with that. Amanda's entire identity is built on being the center of attention and getting her way. The fact that she'd gone from excluding me to crashing my plans in less than 24 hours was proof of how little self-awareness she had. We joked about it for a while, imagining what she was doing next. She's probably sitting in her car right now, texting everyone she knows about how mean you were, Sarah said. Or trying to find another party to crash, Rachel added. Honestly, I didn't care what Amanda did after she left. All I cared about was that she wasn't ruining my night anymore. We turned the Christmas movie back on, made some popcorn, and went back to enjoying ourselves. But, of course, Amanda couldn't leave it alone. About an hour later, my phone started buzzing with texts. The first one said, "I can't believe how you treated me after everything I've done for you. This is how you repay me?" I actually laughed out loud when I read that. Everything she's done for me? Like what? Then came the guilt-tripping texts. "Noah was so excited to see you this Christmas. He's been asking about you all day, and now he's crying because he didn't get to spend time with his aunt. How could you do this to him?" Ah, yes, the classic think of the children tactic. Amanda loves to use Noah as a shield whenever she's in the wrong. It's like she thinks I'll magically forget about her behavior if she mentions her kid. The final text was my favorite. "You've really changed, Lisa. I used to think you were a kind and thoughtful person, but now I see how selfish you really are. Merry Christmas. Hope you're happy." I showed the text to Sarah and Rachel, and they were dying laughing. "She really tried to make you the villain here," Rachel said. "Unreal. She's just mad that you're not playing into her drama anymore," Sarah said. They were right. For years, I'd let Amanda's behavior slide because I didn't want to rock the boat. But now that I was standing up for myself, she didn't know how to handle it. I didn't bother responding to any of her messages. At this point, there was no point in trying to reason with her. Amanda was going to believe whatever she wanted to believe, and nothing I said would change that. The rest of the night was drama-free, and we ended up having an amazing time. Looking back, I think Amanda's little stunt made me appreciate my friends even more. They were there for me when my own family wasn't, and they didn't hesitate to call Amanda out for her nonsense. By the time I went to bed, I felt like I'd officially closed the door on Amanda's drama, both literally and figuratively. After Christmas, and not even a month has passed, Amanda and my parents were in full-blown crisis mode. It was honestly a train wreck, and the worst part? They brought it all on themselves. Let's start with Amanda. Once Uncle Robert cut her off, her entire fake life came crumbling down. She and Brian couldn't afford the mortgage on their massive house anymore, so they had to sell it. They tried to find something similar in a cheaper area, but obviously that wasn't happening. So they ended up in this tiny rental house on the outskirts of their town. Amanda made such a big deal about it too. She told everyone who would listen that the move was temporary and that they'd be back on their feet soon. But we all knew the truth. They were drowning. She was already maxed out on credit cards, and without Uncle Robert's help, she had nothing to fall back on. Noah had to be pulled out of his fancy private school, which Amanda loved to brag about, and enrolled in the local public school. And of course, Amanda made it sound like she was some kind of martyr for doing it. "We just want Noah to have a more grounded experience," she told people. Yeah, right. We all know it was because she couldn't afford the tuition anymore. And her Instagram? Totally silent. This is a woman who used to post daily updates of her perfect life, designer bags, luxury vacations, private school events. Now, nothing. The last post was from before Christmas, and the caption was something generic like, "So blessed to spend the holidays with family." I guess it's hard to keep up appearances when you're living in a rental and trying to figure out how to pay the bills. My parents weren't any better off. Uncle Robert cutting them off was a wake-up call they never saw coming. Without his monthly allowance, they couldn't afford to stay in their upscale retirement community in Arizona. They had to move into a much smaller condo, and let me tell you, they were not happy about it. My mom sent me this long, dramatic email about how hard things had been for them. She talked about how much they'd sacrificed for the family, laugh out loud, and how they never expected to be in this position at their age. She even tried to guilt me, saying, "We only stayed in that retirement community so we'd have space for you and Amanda to visit us." Like, really? I think they just liked the free golf and the on-site spa. At one point, my dad actually emailed me, asking if I could talk some sense into Uncle Robert. He said something like, "He's getting older, and I think he made this decision out of anger. You're the one person who can help him see reason." I didn't even know how to respond to that, so I didn't. I mean, these are the same people who let Amanda exclude me from Christmas, and now they wanted my help? No thanks. Uncle Robert made his decision, and I wasn't about to get in the middle of it. Meanwhile, my life was the complete opposite of theirs. For once, I didn't have to deal with any of the usual family drama. After Christmas, I went back to Seattle, got back to work, and focused on the things that actually mattered. A week after I got home, I got some great news. I'd been promoted to senior project manager. It came with a nice salary bump too, which was perfect timing since I'd spent way too much on that suite in Aspen. My investments were doing well too. I've been really focused on saving for the future, and it's paying off. Knowing I have that financial security makes all the difference, especially when I look at what's happening with Amanda and my parents. A few weeks later, Uncle Robert sent me a handwritten note for my birthday. It wasn't anything fancy, just a simple card with a message that meant the world to me. Proud of you for standing tall. Independence is the best gift you've given yourself. I actually teared up a little reading it. Uncle Robert has always been my biggest supporter, but seeing those words in writing felt like validation for everything I've worked so hard for. Meanwhile, the emails and texts from Amanda and my parents kept rolling in. Amanda tried to play the victim, saying she didn't know things would go this far and asking if I could talk to Uncle Robert for her. My mom sent more guilt-trippy messages about how they were struggling to make ends meet now, and my dad threw in a few passive-aggressive comments about how I was turning my back on the family. But here's the thing, I didn't feel guilty at all. For years, I let myself feel like the odd one out in my own family, like I was somehow less important because I wasn't as flashy or needy as Amanda. But this Christmas made me realize something. Being independent is my superpower. So yeah, Amanda and my parents might be struggling, but that's not my burden to carry. They made their choices, and now they're dealing with the consequences. As for me, I'm thriving, and I'm finally free from the toxic family dynamics that used to weigh me down. If you're still here reading this, thanks for sticking with me. I guess the moral of the story is this. Sometimes, walking away from people who don't treat you right is the best thing you can do for them and for yourself.